What's up guys? Hi, my name is Fred and this is going to be the first video on my new YouTube channel here. This is going to be a YouTube channel focused primarily on what I do in my shop here with my car projects. I have quite a few car projects going pretty much all the time, and they're all in various states of either being torn down or put back together or restored or modified or tuned, etc, etc. So I've been working on cars for a long time, and I've got quite a cool little collection here in my opinion. I hope you think so too, and I just want to share these videos with you and really just kind of catalog what I do up here in the shop and share it with the world, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are just into the same kinds of things that I'm into, because I watch a lot of YouTube channels about this kind of stuff. And I thought, you know what, it's probably time that I just make a channel and just start recording some of this stuff and putting it out there into the world and just get some more good content out there and see how it goes. So welcome to the channel and glad to have you here. Okay, so I realized that the audio in this video is going to be kind of trash because I don't even have a microphone yet. I don't have any camera equipment whatsoever, and it's raining outside. It's pretty much been raining for, I don't know, at least 2 days solid here in Missouri. I'm getting pretty sick and tired of it. I'm ready for some dry weather and some sunshine. But I am working in a steel shop here, and it also has a steel ceiling inside, so the rain is making a lot of noise. Sorry about that. There's really nothing I can do about it, unfortunately, today. And I'm really committed to getting my channel kicked off today, so I'm just going to go forward and make this happen, even though it's not ideal. Okay, so the first car I want to talk about with you here on the channel today is going to be my 1991 Nissan 240SX. It is an S13 coupe. I've had this car for about 8 or 9 years, and it has been a project the entire time. I bought it as a non-running car off Craigslist for a couple $1,000 with a blown engine, automatic transmission, and otherwise it was a good complete car. So it immediately became a project and was always destined to be LS swapped from day one. So I've been heading down that road for all these years, and it is finally now a running and driving car. Although it is definitely not done. Still very much a project car, and probably always will be. This car is pretty much my test bed for all my ideas, for what things I want to try, and it's also my platform to learn how to do all the things that I want to do, such as welding, metal fabrication, paint and body, interior restoration, wiring, pretty much you name it. I've done it on this project to get this car to the state that it's in now, and that has been a ton of fun. So this car currently makes 870 horsepower at the crankshaft at 20 psi of boost, so it is no slouch, and I haven't had it on chassis dyno in quite some time, so I don't know what it makes at the tire, but it makes a lot, and it's pretty dang powerful. I ran a 9.8 at 142 miles an hour in the quarter mile this year, so that was pretty special. Only thing I ever really wanted to do with this car in terms of quarter mile was run a 10, and I kind of just blew right past that real quick, ran a 9, and immediately got kicked out of the track, and they said don't come back until you have a full roll cage. So yeah, that kind of cut my season short, but it was a fun experience, and I'll go into more details on what happened there in another video. I just wanted to kind of show you this project real quick. So it is she is a 5.3 liter L33 all aluminum LS engine. So it's the L33 out of the later model trucks. It's got an LS1 intake manifold. What else? It's got Corvette exhaust manifolds that are flipped around. I know it's going to be hard to see, but the exhaust manifolds are flipped around. And then I fabricated a full hot side for it, kind of a Y pipe that comes together right here to the turbocharger, and this is a VS Racing 7875 turbo that has done pretty well for me so far, although I definitely want to upgrade that, and that's one of the big upgrades for this car in the very near future. Is I'm going to upgrade a little 7875 to something possibly more along the lines of a Borg Warner S480 or S485 possibly. Got a few different turbos I'm looking at. But anyway, so this started out as a stock bottom end L33. It has been blown up and rebuilt a couple of times in the last couple of years, and is currently now on Summit forged rods and pistons. It's also got valve springs, a Stage 2 Summit turbo cam, what else is important to know about it? So yeah, that's pretty much it. Rods and pistons, LS9 head gaskets, Speedmaster head studs. So it's a pretty stout package now and should be pretty well bulletproof at this point for the most part. Got a 4-inch exhaust system that comes down, and I fabricated my own custom dump valve, which you can see right there. And that dump valve is cable operated. So if you can tell, that's actually a throttle body, and there's a cable coming off the bottom that routes up into the interior of the car. So I can pull a lever and go from 4-inch dump, nice and loud, real aggressive, to flip the lever the other way, and all the exhaust comes out the back and comes out this exhaust system here, and is super nice and quiet. So it's got a lot of adjustability right there, which is awesome. And right here we've got a Bell Intercoolers, made in the USA intercooler core, and custom fabricated top and bottom end tanks made by a local fab guy. And then I just finished making this duct yesterday. So it is ducted as a 3.5-inch thick intercooler. It's quite a small intercooler core. It's only about 15 inches by I think 8 inches, so very small frontal area, but nice and thick at 3.5 inches. And this is supposed to be the size intercooler core, spec'd from Bell themselves to handle 800 horsepower on a V8. So I called them a couple of times and talked to them to verify that this intercooler was in fact big enough for the job, and they assured me that it was. So we're going to find out this coming season whether this thing can truly handle the heat or not. But I wanted to make an intercooler duct for it to make sure it has a fighting chance. And that was a fun project that I got done yesterday for that. And what else? Okay, we got, let's see, a couple of Meridyne 3-inch fans. These were super key, instrumental in keeping this car from overheating. These are the thick Meridyne fans with the straight blades, super powerful, and they really did the job. Really nice. What else interesting here? Injectors and fuel system. These are FID fuel injector developments, 1500cc fuel injectors, E85 capable, compatible, I mean, and I am running E85 in the car. In the fuel tank, I've got dual Walbro 450 pumps there in the tank, Holley fuel filter underneath the car, E85 sensor underneath the car also, and fuel regulator underneath the car mounted on the trans cross member. So that's pretty much my fuel system right there. Okay, and the transmission that I've got in this car is a Chevy 4L80E. Started out with just a junkyard 4L80E, had some issues with the car not making the power it should, not running the times it should at the track, and we thought maybe the trans is slipping or doing something, so I had a local shop go through it. Come to find out the transmission was absolutely toast on the inside. Everything was bent and warped, even though it drove perfectly fine. So I ended up with a fully built transmission. So now it's a fully built 4L80E, upgraded clutches and everything else they do inside there. Torque converter is from Circle D, and it is the budget series torque converter that they sell. So not a triple disc or twin disc, it's just kind of a budget series torque converter. I don't know what else to say. About a 3,200 RPM stall on it, and it has worked extremely well for me so far. It has allowed me to build 16 PSI on the line at the track, which I thought was amazing that I could build that much boost. But it did that just fine, and I'm logging converter slip, and it doesn't slip much. I mean, it's under 10% slip all the time, so the converter seems to be doing its job pretty well for me. And as you can see right there, I'm using the stock 240SX shifter. Had to do quite a bit of modifications to the shift gate and linkage to make that work with the GM transmission, but it was important to me to keep this car as stock appearing on the interior as possible. That is a big value of mine on these cars when I build them, is I typically want to keep everything as stock as possible and as tame looking and as original looking as I can, within reason. You know, obviously it doesn't completely look original, but you're not going to see a lot of aftermarket stuff on my builds, at least on this project. And I got a back seat, full interior, headliner, carpet, like everything's here. I don't really take stuff out, at least I try not to. Obviously still stock steering wheel. This was originally a brown interior car, and I re-dyed and repainted everything. So everything black used to be brown, pretty much. The seats are out of a 350Z. I've used those seats, not that exact pair, but I've used 350Z seats on several different projects, and they've worked out really good. So, what else we got in here interesting? Got an AEM wideband. It's pretty standard stuff. Got a boost gauge down there, and then over here we've got the ECU, which I will go over next. Okay, so I apologize for the rat's nest right here. It doesn't normally look like this, but after my last dyno experience, I slammed the car back together to make it to the track and did not tidy up my wiring harness. So this will actually all look very nice and tidy when I'm done. It just looks terrible right now. But anyway, the ECU I'm running is the Megasquirt MS3 Pro Evo. So that's this box here, and then the Microsquirt controls the 4L80E transmission. So MS3 Pro Evo plus Microsquirt is the ECU I'm running in this car right now, and it works really good. It's not perfect, I don't love it, but I do love a lot of the things about it. It is a super flexible system with tons of inputs and outputs, and yeah, it works pretty good. And I've got a local tuner that's been tuning it for me, and he's super familiar with Megasquirt, so that's really the reason I went with this system, is because it was his suggestion. And I knew I wanted him to tune the car, so I knew I needed to get whatever ECU he was most familiar with. So yep, Megasquirt, that's working out pretty good. I don't know if it'll always be on Megasquirt. We'll see how this next year goes. There are a few glitchy things about Megasquirt that I don't love, so there's a lot of newer ECUs out now that are affordable, so I may switch up. We'll see how it goes. What else is in here interesting? Already talked about the shifter. Okay, so this is interesting. I've got this button here hooked up. This is actually a trans brake, but it's not a trans brake in the traditional sense. I don't even have a traditional trans brake modified valve body. This is what they call the sloppy trans brake, or the third gear spool mod, I think they call it. So whenever I'm on the line at the track, I just put my foot on the brake, push this button down with my right hand, and then stomp the gas to the floor with my right foot, and the two-step on the Megasquirt activates at 3,800 RPM. So RPMs build up to 3,800 and hold there, and as long as I've got this button down, the transmission is actually in third gear instead of first gear. And because you're in third gear, because of the gearing and the ratios and the way all that works, the car doesn't make enough torque to push through your foot brake. So you just sit there, and your foot brake is powerful enough to hold you on the line, and you're building RPM up to your two-step limit, and you're building boost up to the capability of your system, and then you're just sitting still. And then whenever you're ready to launch, you just go like this, and the transmission shifts instantly back into first gear, and you blow through the foot brake and you take off, and wham, away you go. And that actually works really good so far. I've cut a 1.560 foot at the track last year, which is not great, but considering I did zero suspension tuning or optimization, it is actually pretty good. So this next year I expect to get down, maybe I would like to see 1.3s if at all possible out of this system, which is going to cut my quarter-mile time down significantly into the mid-9s, no doubt. So that covers the ECU and the launch control. Okay, so that pretty much catches us up all the way from the front to the middle of the car, I think. So next up would be the rear end. So let's see, we've got a Infiniti Q45 limited slip rear differential installed, and J30 axles. So fairly beefy rear end, not too bad, not as good as it could be, but so far it's held up okay. I've got some Mickey Thompson 275 5015 ET Street R tires, super sticky tires, and I've launched this thing as hard as I possibly could a few times at the track, and I've had no trouble out of the rear end so far. So fingers crossed that the rear end will continue to be strong and will last hopefully at least another season for me. You can see the Z32 brakes poking out right there. I had took those apart myself, rebuilt them, and had them powder coated. Powder coating is one of the things I can't do here in the shop just yet, so I did outsource that to a local powder coater shop. And let's see, what else? I think that pretty much catches us up on all the drivetrain and the hard parts. The body is all basically original and all steel. So no aftermarket body parts anywhere, fiberglass, nothing like that. These are actually steel, straight from Nissan. Sylvia fenders I ordered, just literally ordered them from Nissan. Probably got one of the last pairs in the country. I don't think those are even available anymore, so very fortunate to have a pair of those. What else? Silvia dual projector headlights, OEM stuff, all glass, of course, as you know. Super legit stuff there. I wish they still made headlights like that. Silvia front bumper, it's an OEM bumper. It's, I forget which model has this vent right here, but I actually have that venting, or it's not a vent, it's a duct. I have that duct cooling a trans cooler in there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I built a trans cooler mount and it sits right there. I actually need some ducting to connect this opening to the cooler, and it would probably work even better, so that's one of my future projects. Yeah, so I think that catches us up on the majority of everything important to know about this project. So next steps for this project, let's go over that next. Okay, so turbo systems on LS engines. Pretty much any engine is going to run into the same problem. You can have a turbo that's great for the street and it'll be pretty much not good enough for the track, or you can have one great for the track and it's too big for the street. So I'm up against that here with my project, like so many other people are with theirs. The VS Racing 7875 is a pretty fantastic little turbo, especially for how cheap it is. But the problem with it here on a 5.3 liter V8 is that the turbine side of the turbo, the exducer side of the turbine wheel, is 75 millimeters, which is too small. So imagine pumping an entire V8 out of one 75 millimeter or 3-inch hole and trying to force, you know, over 700 wheel horsepower through a 3-inch exhaust. It's just too much. So it creates way too high back pressure and it hurts the engine. It can hurt the engine. It can actually break pistons and bend rods. With my forged rods and pistons, that probably won't happen again. Yes, I said again. What'll probably happen now though is that the motor will just die out about 6,000 RPM and won't make any real high-end power. So bottom line, I need a bigger turbo. So that's probably coming up next for me as a board. Probably going to be like an S480, S485 with a billet wheel with a big old 88 millimeter turbine wheel. So I'll be going from a 75 millimeter turbine exducer to an 88 millimeter turbine exducer. So that'll be a huge upgrade if I go that route, or I may go even bigger. The more I learn about this back pressure issue, the more I learn that back pressure is the devil when you're pushing engines very, very hard and trying to make a lot of horsepower. So I may actually step up beyond the Borg S480 and go even higher into whatever the next realm is, which is basically going to be a Garrett GT55 based turbo. VS Racing sells some big stuff with 100 millimeter exducer turbines approximately, so there's some options there I'm going to look at and try to make up my mind here over the winter while I'm working on the cage, make up my mind on just how big I want to go on the turbo. But I'm leaning towards going pretty darn huge. There doesn't seem to be any downside to that other than a little bit of downside on your spool up time. But when you've got a big V8 engine pushing a lightweight car anyway, you're already making enough torque to move the car down the road pretty quick before the turbo spools. So I think I'll be okay with a slightly oversized turbo, but that's coming up soon. And then I do need to upgrade the fuel lines on this car. I've got Dash 6 fuel lines all the way from the pump to the rail, and that's a little too small. I need Dash 8, and I need to replace these factory fuel rails with this not awesome crossover tube. I need to replace both of those rails with aftermarket big old Dash 8 fuel rails. So that's coming soon, an upgraded fuel system. And that's going to be about it. And then it's going to be time for the season to start up again in the spring. And hopefully we're going to do a lot of track events with this car this coming year. Get a lot of content for the channel. Have a lot of fun with the family out at the track and friends. And just really finally move this project from shop phase to track phase and actually get out and use it more. So that catches everybody up on this project. I hope you enjoyed this first video on the channel here. There's going to be a lot more stuff to come, a lot more how-tos and a lot more just videos of me working on the car and showing you how I operate, how I work, my tools, my whole shop here. Of course, I'll be going over all my other cars in videos like this as we go. and just getting to know you guys and helping you get to know me and what I do here in the shop. So I appreciate you showing up here and watching the video and sticking it out to the end. If you enjoyed this and like what I'm up to, please just subscribe to the channel and stay in touch, and I will be uploading again soon. Thanks guys. Bye.